So let's take a look at how to complete homework number 2. It's about categorical perception of speech sound. So we're just going to go to the link. And as we scroll through here, we can see that there are different steps that we're going to be going through. So we start off here with the introduction. And the introduction is going to talk about how for other stimuli that we have encountered, like light, and even just basic sound, there's this pattern where a particular stimulus will produce a particular type of perception. Gradually, say, increasing a tone's amplitude, as an example, raises the level of the perceived loudness. So there's like this kind of one-to-one connection, right, between the physical stimulus and what we experience, our perception. But for speech sounds, that is actually a little bit different. Small changes can actually lead to very large perceptual differences. So it says here to play the leftmost and then the rightmost speech sounds.
Ba. Ba.
And now I'll play sound number 7.
Ga. Ga.
And if you have headphones on and the audio quality is good, you should be able to distinguish between these two.
Ba. Ba. Ga. Ga.
One should sound more like a B or ba,
Ba.
and the other should sound more like a G or
Ga.
ga. If speech perception was just like frequency perception, the perception of regular sounds, you should hear these intermediate sounds as somewhat between the two. So what we're going to do is listen to sound number 4.
Da. Da.
It should sound like a D or da sound, not something in between a B or G. In other words, these different sounds are not gradual changes along a continuum. They are perceived as different categories of sound. For the homework assignment, your job is to start off with what are called identification trials.
Da.
And then you choose which one of these 3 it sounded like. Once I do the first one, I go on to the next trial.
Da.
The next one.
Da.
Next one.
Da. Ba. Ga. Ba.
You want to do several of these. It recommends to do at least 14. More the better. And at some point, show yourself the results. My results were not very good because I was kind of rushing through, but you can see the color coding here. It's telling you where there's a clear boundary between sounds. So my G sounds here were very distinct, and both of these sounds, even though they're a little different, sounded like G's. These 2 sounds, even though they were a little different, all kind of sounded like D's. This one I had a hard time with, but these 2 B sounds, even though they were a little different from each other, both sounded just like B. And so we can see here we basically have 3 categories of sound: a B category, a D category, and a G category. The next part we're going to do is the discrimination trials. Here's where we're going to actually have to try and determine if the 2 sounds are the same or different. So instead of just classifying them as ba, da, or ga, B, D, or G, we're going to see if they sound any different.
Da. Da.
So it played 2 sounds, and to me they sounded a little different, so I'm going to click on different.
Ga. Ga.
They sounded different. And again, we're asking you to do 18 trials.
Ga. Ga.
So here are my results. Now I want to focus on these percentages. Here's an area where they are very decisive. This 100% right here is telling us that 100% of the trials where they presented this frequency and this frequency, to me, they sounded different, indicating that there is a threshold here between one category of sound, the D category here on the left, and the G category of sound over here on the right. Ideally, there would have been another similar boundary right here between the B sound and the D sound. So where you see in your results the 100%, that's telling you that you had a very clear categorical boundary between one sound and the next, like a a wall between the B sound and the D sound, or the D sound and the G sound. So if it's really high, it doesn't have to be 100%, but if it's like 80% or 75%, then that's where your boundary is. And where the numbers are low or even zero, then you're hearing them as basically the same.